Alright, hello again everybody. I hope you're doing well. Nice that some of these COVID restrictions are going to be lifted. Restaurants are going to start opening, good news. They have to put barriers up, and I think they're only allowed half their capacity as part of a safety precaution. So that still will be tough, like, because you want to make money with your square footage. Anyways, here's a couple of Atlantic lobsters. These ones are really lively. People all over the world are always looking for these. So in Vancouver, these would cost about $20 a pound, raw probably. Maybe restaurants could get them for about 15 or so. These were about $9 a pound. You can buy them from the fishermen, usually about $1 a pound less than you can from the grocery store. But when you buy them from the fishermen, a lot of time you only pay cash. You can't use your banks, Visa or anything like that. So sometimes that's hard, but I always like to try to buy cash when I can from the fishermen to support them. Then it goes right to their pocket, as long as it's all legal, of course, and they're always inspected and everything, right? So like back to our approved sources. I love Ryer's Lobster down on Peggy's Cove Road. They took care of me for a lot of years. I've sold a ton of lobsters over the last, I don't know, let's say 20 years in the industry, but especially in the last, ever since I've lived here, because at the Five Fishermen, even when I started here at 7, when we first opened 7, we used to grill the lobsters. So we would take them live, split them down in half, and then put them on our wood burning grill, like brush them with garlic and herb butter, and cook them on the wood burning grill. I don't know, these are still living beings. I like to kind of end their lives pretty quick. I didn't really like the idea of barbecuing, basically, or grilling the lobsters split in half on the barbecue, kind of still writhing around. Anyways, it's just, I don't know, too compassionate, I guess. But so here's a male lobster and here's a female lobster. I don't know if you remember back from our Sobeys trip in the fall, but the female lobster, you can see the width in her tail, right? See the male lobster, see how narrow that is? Female lobster, really wide. Wider hips on the girls, right? Because actually they are meant to carry eggs underneath of their tail section. So if they've got wide hips, it protects their eggs once their eggs are outside of their body and they're carrying them around. And this is the male. Also, another way you can tell is on this side here, this part right here is kind of firm. These guys are very lively. These things here are really firm, these last two little flippers. Whereas on the female, these last two here are just very, very, they don't like being on your back anymore, so they're pretty lively. These little two flippers, they're very small and quite soft, whereas those guys' flippers are very firm and they're a lot more pronounced. So that's how you tell the males from the females. Why is that important? Why does it matter if you got a male or female? Well, when we worked at the Five Fishermen, like we probably cooked 60 lobsters a night some nights, because it was a bit of a tourist destination and a great place to get lobster. And a lot of people would request females only. And part of the reason why they would request a female is because inside their bodies there's something called coral and tamale. And the coral is their beautiful roe that when it's cooked, it has a nice flavor to it as well. It's green when it's raw, and it's it's like a black. It's black almost when it's raw, but it's a really deep green, deep, dark green color. That actually comes up as a black color when it's raw, and then once it's cooked, it turns vibrant pink. We'll see that later on because this female will have some eggs inside of her. And there's also the tamale, which is always kind of greenish color. It's basically the guts of the lobster. It's also sought after by a lot of people that like to dip their bread in it and such. Anyhow, that's it for now. I'm going to be cooking these in our court bouillon, which is, of course, flavor country, right? You guys remember this is a great place to use our trim for I made an apple fennel slaw, so I've got some red onion skins in there, or outer layers. I've got fennel in there because I've made the apple fennel slaw, so some fennel fronds. Fennel's that black licoricey flavor. I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. Bay leaves, peppercorns, parsley stems, right? Flavor country. This is what our court bouillon is. Remember when we were talking about stocks and things like that? In the meantime, I'm just melting my butter here on the stove. We'll just cut it up and put it there beside the pot so it'll slowly melt to dip our lobster when we're done. Now, court bouillons, you always add an acid to it. So my acid here is a lemon. My general way of thinking is when I'm poaching seafood that's shellfish, right? If I'm poaching shellfish, I'll use lemon as my acid. If I'm poaching, say, salmon or halibut, then a lot of times I'll use white wine as my acid. So no acid is just the way the flavors that they pick up. I find it brings out the sweetness in the crustaceans and other shellfish. And then for fish, I find that the wine really complements it well. I find the lemon actually almost takes away from the flavor of the fish. All you taste really is the lemon in the end. Anyhow, the other thing is you want to salt this water pretty heavily. You can taste it. It should taste almost like the ocean. I mean, a lot of the times when you're cooking live whole crab or live lobsters, you'll just do it on the beach on a big beach boil. You get your big fire going or burner going, and you get a big giant pot of salted or seawater, and you just cook them right in the seawater. So this liquid, when we're done with it, is not edible, right? We basically are going to throw it out because there's the acid in it. It's going to be all lobster infested, or it's going to have all the lobster coagulated bits of protein in it and stuff. So it's not going to be a very nice liquid at the end. So we throw it out. It's all waste after this. One thing I've learned when I'm boiling my lobsters is you can take all these goodies out, all these flavors, and basically we've steeped it now, like we learned a couple weeks ago when we made our fish cakes. When we steeped things, we've extracted the flavors, the aromatic flavors out of it, and now the water is now flavored with all these aromatic vegetables and the lemon. So I got a little garlic clove in there as well, bay leaf, peppercorns, salted water. Yeah. Why do you think there's elastic bands on these? Well, you see how feisty these guys are? It's still kind of freak me out. This is the crusher claw. It's for squishing big things. This is the tearing claw. It's a little bit more sharp. This one's a little bit more powerful, right? You can see better on the female. Big powerful claw. And this one here is like more for tearing at stuff. And then they have these little claws here in the front that they use for helping themselves to eat, to feed themselves, right? So their stomach's actually up in their head. It's kind of interesting, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's nice and close to where they're eating at. And they kind of do swim around a little bit when you see them on the bottom of the water, on the ocean. They use these tails and the fan, right? And they push themselves along, and you see how quickly they can fan that or slap that around. They can actually get away from predators that way. But they are a bit of a predator themselves, or more of a scavenger, sorry. They mostly eat scraps from the bottom of the ocean. I've gotten to go up and fish them a couple times. They just set traps with dead fish in them, and you go in and pull them up when they're on buoys. You've probably seen them around. I fished them out in Parsboro area, and it's quite a bit of fun. I went and helped the guys on the boat, putting these elastics on them and everything. But just like anything else, I'm not just going to put these right in the boiling water with the elastics, because why would you want to cook elastics with your food? We just flavored all this water. We've learned all about steeping, and now we're not going to steep the rubber in our water. So you always remove the elastic bands from your lobsters before cooking them. All right, so I'm going to get these ready to cook, and join you. I'll be back in a minute.